Well, the Bombers find fortune in the big smoke tonight and come away with a win, 1-point victory on a missed convert from Boris Beatty. And the Toronto Argonauts lose another one. The Blue Bombers move to 4-0. Who is on my virtual right? Taylor Allen of the Winnipeg Free Press, Bombers beat writer. How's it going, Taylor? Thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on. I've been enjoying your content all season and last year as well. And I got to be honest, I had a bit of a chuckle yesterday listening to the game day show with you and Chris Walby. You were teasing that you had a surprise co-host for tonight. So I'm sure fans are probably pretty disappointed that it's me. But hey, I'm excited to be here, and hopefully you are too. But yeah, I'm
Well,
excited to talk some
absolutely.
football.
I'm excited, because we haven't had an opportunity to have you on the channel yet. Also, like a game like this, there is a lot to get to. We'll talk about the defensive backfield continuing to take the ball away, real redemption game for Winston Rose. That turnover on downs, the challenge the Toronto Argonauts made on that second or third and short that Andrew Harris came up just about an inch and a half short of the first down. Greg McCrae, Brady Oliveira, the Blue Bombers run game, or maybe lack thereof. Some of the play calling from offensive coordinator Buck Pierce. We'll talk about Zach Collaros, the injury to Kyrie Wilson. And then, of course, the Toronto Argonauts and Andrew Harris, of course, being the lead of it all. Huge game for him, 22 carries for 111 yards. And thank you, Taylor, for helping me out with that number a little bit earlier. The Brandon Banks touchdown grab, battling with Demario Houston. Was it an interception? Was it a fumble? Was it a touchdown? We're going to get into the ruling on the field and what the command center did and some of the reasons why they ultimately upheld the touchdown call. I know a lot of fans are frankly pissed off about that, Taylor. How did you see probably one of, like, I would say maybe the most controversial play in the CFL so far this year?
Yeah, that was a bit of a weird one. I like to think on most challenges I have a pretty strong sense of where it's going to go, but that one I was like, I have no idea where this one's going to go. Just watching it live, it looks like Houston picks it off, and then Banks just kind of rips it away at the last second and just ruled it the touchdown to be safe. But yeah, again, watching it back as well, and hearing what lots of people on Twitter were saying too, like you'd think that was an interception. So it is kind of weird how that one went Toronto's way. Fortunately for the Bombers, it didn't matter. But for Houston, I mean, I'm sure he felt sick after that one. He was rock solid in his first start last week. Tonight, I thought he looked good again, and on that play, just some terrible luck. Like, what can you even say to the guy after that one? But yeah, Brandon Banks, he had a bit of a weird game. I felt like the game in the first quarter totally went downhill after he had that drop. After the Cloud, Bethel Thompson made that beautiful pass to him down the sideline, and then the next play was a pick six to Winston Rose. So Speedy B kind of made up for it in a way with that play, but yeah, kind of a weird day for him. And then the fight he had on the sideline as well, throwing a water
That was wild, right?
Pinball Clemens coming down from the box. That's not something you see every day. So yeah, we could probably spend this whole hour or two talking about Speedy B. Yeah, that was a really weird play. Where did you sense that one was going?
The
interception that wasn't an interception.
Yeah, so like I shared some thoughts on Twitter. Here's what it really comes down to, and this is not really an arguable fact or subjective at all. An objective fact is that a ruling on the field needs clear and definable evidence of the contrary in order to overrule a call on the field. So it was called a touchdown. And because Demario Houston, Mike O'Shea talked about it after the game, saying Demario Houston did not have control of the football. So because he did not have the control of the football is still live. It never hit the turf. Some people, were saying maybe it touched the turf and that sort of thing, or that Houston had it and was down by contact. The CFL command center determined clearly that he did not have control of the football and that it was still live. So Brandon Banks rips it away. The ruling on the field was a touchdown. There wasn't enough evidence to overrule that. I don't have a huge problem with this. Every single Bombers fan that is hitting, well, where is it? The Bonfire hotline, 816-TIPS, 816-8477. it's lit up tonight, Taylor. Like pretty much everybody is mad at that call, saying all the expletives, like, this league, the officiating's a joke. And, it's the Argos. They only did it because it's the Argos. And if it was any other team, it wouldn't be that way. And this and that and the other. The reality is you watch these games across the CFL. It doesn't matter if it's Montreal playing Calgary on a Thursday night. It doesn't matter. If a ruling on the field doesn't have clear evidence because of the video review, they can't overturn that call. They have to stick with the one on the field. So I understand fans' frustration and level of being upset with that, but I'm not surprised with what I saw. And I say that objectively, not surprised, because that's how the rules in the CFL are written as far as the video review is concerned.
Well, at least for Bomber fans, the football gods paid them one back at the end of the game with the Boris Speedy missed extra points, so they can't be too upset. Neither can they be about being 4-0, which is also kind of funny. I was talking to someone the other day, and there was a time around these parts where if the Bombers were 3-0 or 4-0 like they are now, I mean, we people in this town would be hanging a banner just from that and throwing a parade just from that. But it just shows how far this organization has come. That now the team could be 4-0. And I think lots of people are actually kind of concerned about lots of areas with this team, and they're not looking quite as good as maybe the record is at the moment and stuff. So it's just pretty crazy to think about how high this bar has been set by this team, where again they're 4-0 and you can kind of poke some holes at them.
I think that's so on the nose, Taylor. One thing I've learned in pro sports is that winning solves everything, and like there was a lot of grief and a lot of frustration here in Winnipeg for 30 years, right? I don't know if you were even alive, Taylor, when the Blue Bombers won the Grey Cup in 1990. I was
born in 92, so no, I was not.
Well, like I was very, very young to the point where I don't remember the game. I don't remember the win, but I do remember getting my picture taken in like a liquor commission, like an LC with Chris Walby. But it was a long, long time ago. So winning solves everything, but it also brings much, much higher standards. And I'm not talking about Mike O'Shea or Kyle Walters or Adam Bighill in the locker room. I'm talking about the standards of fans. They expect a winner. They expect the team to perform at their best every single week. That's just not a reality. Winnipeg did not play well in week 1. I think they played a little bit better in week 2. They played pretty good in week 3. I think Hamilton wasn't very good. So entering this game 3-0 against a Toronto team that has been up and down like an absolute roller coaster, and now they're 4-0, kind of lucking their way into a win from a missed convert. I was, just going back to week 2, and it was the first game of the week, the Thursday night in week 2, Montreal in Toronto, and it was a 2019 Argonauts win. And why? Well, if you pull up, I'm pulling up the live play here and scrolling all the way to the fourth quarter. The pretty much the final play of the game, David Cote, 21-yard field goal missed, and that would have put Montreal ahead for a 2-point win with, like, what is it? A matter of 15 seconds left in the game. So I tweeted when he missed that, like, is this karma? Because that was the only win Toronto had to lead the East Division, was a missed field goal win against Montreal. So, maybe karma came and bit them, because, they were really getting after each other on the sideline. When the general manager needs to come down from the suites and cool guys down, cool Brandon Banks down, and settle guys in a little bit during the game, like in the middle of the game, there's some problems in Toronto, and, they're still a one-win football team. Yeah, they went toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in the league in the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but, I think they've got bigger fish to fry right now than saying, oh, gosh, we're 1 point away from beating the defending champs.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew Harris has always been a guy that wears his heart on his sleeve. He's usually pretty honest, and I mean that in a good way when talking with the media and stuff like that. But leading up to this one, he kind of took the cliche, route, and, just another game, blah, 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 whatever. And honestly, I think a big reason for that is how bad Toronto played the week before. And for him and the Argos, it was like, we just got to focus on figuring our stuff out. Never mind, the juicy storyline of Andrew Harris going up against the Bombers who moved on from him and whatever. Like, we don't got time for that. We just got to get a win and start playing some good football here. And another crazy thing to think about is how the Bombers, yes, they're 4-0, but they've all come against the East Division. And I believe the total record of these three teams, Red Blacks, Ticats, and Argos, is 1-9. So for the Bombers, I mean, a win's a win. Doesn't matter who you beat or really how you do it. But you could say they haven't really beat anyone that great this year. I know Ottawa has shown some flashes. Some people like they've seen from them, and so have I. Yep. But not to skip ahead to the weekend, but going up against BC, that's going to be the first real big test for the Bombers. And unfortunately for them, being 4-0, not playing your best football, has bought them more time to figure it out and whatnot. So despite, again, some not so great play in some areas, they're in a pretty good spot. But yeah, they really haven't played a super tough opponent yet either.
We definitely have to get to the offense. But you mentioned the BC Lions, and it's not just any regular tough test for this football club, Taylor. Like, if we look at the standings right now, Bombers 4-0, BC 3-0, and I'll highlight their points for 137. They had two drubbings, one of Edmonton, one of Toronto, where they put up multiple touchdowns. Nathan Rourke, James Butler, that group of receivers, they're really getting things done. But the challenge is not a good football team in the BC Lions. That's part of it. That's a big part of it. But another really, really big part of it is 5 days between games. The Blue Bombers need to travel home to Winnipeg, and I'll presume they will do that tonight. Wake up in the morning, go into work, break down the film, and I'll give everybody a look at the East here. 2 wins on the season. Montreal got one just the other night. Go into work tomorrow, break down the film on day 0, as they call it, or it might be day 1 because it's a short week. Wednesday, they're going to probably continue recover and maybe work out a little bit. Thursday, pardon me, is that right? I'm losing my days of the week here. It's Monday. Yeah, so Tuesday, Wednesday, it's going to be rest. Thursday, they have a closed practice here in Winnipeg. Friday, they travel to Vancouver. So 1 time zone tonight, 3 more time zones on Friday. And then Saturday, they're going to kick off against the BC Lions in a game between the only unbeaten teams. I guess Calgary's 3-0 too, but really a battle for first place early here in the West Division. It's going to be a serious game, but it's going to be really interesting to see how Winnipeg handles the rest and the recovery and the short week ahead of this one.
Yeah, O'Shea was kind of asked about this kind of chunk of the schedule here, which obviously isn't an easy one. And he downplayed it, which you kind of would expect him to. But yeah, this is an absolute nightmare of a week for the Bombers to get home late tonight and have about 10 seconds to prepare for the BC Lions, who are red hot and have arguably the best player in the league right now, Nathan Rourke. So that's going to be an interesting one. And not only that, too, I mean, another storyline today that is kind of getting glossed over because of how crazy this game ended. It was Kyrie Wilson leaving the game early with an injury, and it was a non-contact play either. He was just kind of running towards a receiver, I believe, and he kind of just, his leg looked like it kind of gave out on him or something like that, and he left and didn't return. And Jesse Briggs is already hurt, and Malik Clements, he left the game as well. So they're pretty nicked up at that spot for sure. So yeah, when you got some guys banged up, I know Jamarcus Hardrick, he came back in the game after that kind of early scare as well, but who knows how he's going to be feeling tomorrow as well. So
right.
So yeah, only having a couple days to prepare for your toughest game of the season so far. Yeah, that's a tough test for anyone, even if you are the back-to-back Grey Cup champs.
Tons of people in the live chat right now. What's going on to everybody out there watching live on YouTube and Facebook. Darren Bombing, Taylor Allen of the Winnipeg Free Press, following a Blue Bombers win tonight, 23-22 on a missed convert from Boris Beattie of the Toronto Argonauts. So Winnipeg, I don't know, maybe kind of, flops into first place in the CFL at 4-0. You mentioned that injury to Kyrie Wilson. That could be a big one. He is a superb player and one I've been trying to tell people for a long time. Like, this defense is star-studded, from Rose and Alexander to Jefferson and Big Hill and Jeffcoat, and there's so many guys, right? Kyrie Wilson is an unsung player on this defense. If he misses time, the Blue Bombers will miss him. That said, Malik Clements, a second-year player, played 7 games for the Elks last season. Taylor, I think, is a very, very capable guy to step in. He did a good job tonight. He didn't stand out to me. I think he even had a sack on McLeod Bethel-Thompson late in the game. But there was a time where he went out of the game too, and it was global player Les Maruo who had to step in. And then I was like, oh boy, here's real anxiety when you start getting down to your third stringer at an important position like weak side linebacker. But I want to talk about the offense. I know everybody wants to talk about the offense.
Actually, Darren, I'm going to cut you off for 1 second there.
Yeah.
I just want people to reiterate to people, sorry, I can't speak, how good of a player Kyrie Wilson really is. Actually, I had a one-on-one chat with him the other week, and for starters, he's the most humble guy you'll ever meet. Super nice guy as well. Yep. I was talking to him leading up to the Hamilton game about, the game-sealing interception and stuff, and he totally downplayed that. And, up until this point, he's playing like an all-star. It looked like this could be the year where he finally gets some personal recognition. And he, again, totally downplayed that. For him, it's like, and I know athletes say these kind of things, but for him, it kind of came off like he really did mean it. Like, I don't really care about any of that stuff. It's just about winning and playing for the Bombers and blah, blah, blah. And Mike O'Shea asked him about Kyrie Wilson as well. And he said, like, yeah, people like you in the media have been sleeping on him for too long. We've known for a long time how valuable of a player Kyrie Wilson is. So no, when you go to IG Field, you're not seeing Kyrie Wilson jerseys everywhere.
Sure.
Willie and Biggie, they get all, most of the attention, and Jeffcoat and whatnot. But, you talk to anyone on that defense or on the team, really, they will tell you how important Kyrie Wilson is for that defense. So if he is out for a while, that is a huge blow for sure. But you mentioned the offense, so let's get into that for sure.
Yeah, like what did you see from it tonight? Like, as a team, the Blue Bombers had 15 first downs to Toronto's 26. 2 of those first downs came by the run game. They were 48% on second down and had 60 yards combined rushing. That came from 28 from Oliveira. He averaged 4 yards per carry. Greg McCrae had 3 carries for 18 yards, 1 of 9, which definitely helped his average get up to 6. Zach Kalaris ran 2 times for 11 yards. Janarian Grant had a sweep play for 4. And then Johnny Augustine, just 1 touch tonight, lost a yard on the play. People were clamoring for Johnny Augustine. In comes American tailback Greg McCrae. He was used in a lot of different ways tonight. Had 3 catches on 4 targets, but wasn't able to compile any yardage because the play action, swing pass, or screen play, or bubble screen, or whatever you want to call it, that little chip off to the flats just wasn't working. It was read like a book by the Toronto Argonauts all night long.
But they kept going to it. They kept going back to it. It made absolutely no sense.
It was strange. What did you see in the offense?
You mentioned Johnny Augustine only getting 1 carry, I believe, for -1 yards. And I don't know if you know this, Darren, but I'm actually the president of the Johnny Augustine fan club. I for the last 2 years now, I've been saying this guy needs more of a chance. And obviously, he wasn't going to get one with Andrew Harris, but with Andrew gone, the story of Brady Oliveira was just so perfect, right? I mean, another Winnipegger, another Oak Park guy, and nicest guy ever. Rescues dogs and stuff. It's like, okay, like that's. What a story, right? But
good dude.
Exactly. Yeah. But Johnny's no slouch either. But and I've always just thought he's just more of a dynamic player. He's just more electric with the ball. He's more of a guy that can, bust out that 20+ yard run and whatnot. Where you look at Brady and people say he's more of a bruiser, which he is. But this year he has only 1 carry that's gone for 10 or more yards, and then 1 for 10 yards actually. Where Andrew Harris, they had 2 carries like 1 for 10 or more yards. So just kind of shows how tough of a time Brady's having, just busting out a long run. And the comments, there's been quite a few people talking about the run game and how frustrating it's been to watch. And I won't lie, I've been pretty, harsh in some of my articles talking about it. Because again, I think you look back at this team these past couple of years, and what's made them so successful is the fact that they could run the ball down basically everyone's throat. And I know they lost Drew DeJarle, which was a huge loss that I think was kind of overlooked by some people. They just assumed Jeff Gray could slide in there and the O-line wouldn't miss a beat.
It's just a guard. It's just a guard, right? Yeah. Like, what harm can it do?
Exactly, but
A lot.
Drew DeJarle was a nasty, you know what? That's the type of guy you want in the
Yeah.
back alley with you for sure. So losing him has definitely taken some punch out of that O line. And again, Brady. There's been times where it's like you're just not picking the right hole on the line, and sometimes the hole isn't there as well. So it's not all on him. But you look at the numbers; they're not pretty. He's averaging heading into this one is 3.1 yards per carry. He had 4 yards per carry tonight, so it's probably 3.2 or 3 or whatever. I'm no mathematician, Darren. But it's kind of funny. Andrew Harris has 47 carries this year, one more than Brady, and he has 225 yards. And Brady has 46 carries this year for 149 yards. That's quite the difference there. So
yeah,
I think some people are. I've already seen some comments on Twitter and stuff. People saying how could the Bombers not have offered Andrew Harris a contract, and how silly they were to let him go and stuff. And it's easy to say that now, especially after the way he played. But again, I think in the
see how the whole
offseason,
season goes. Let's see how the whole season goes.
that's exactly what I was going to say. Let's not forget that he was actually questionable to even play this game. This is only week 4. He's already having some hamstring issues, I believe, and
And he's listed as an ankle too. So like,
there you go. Yeah. I mean, no matter how he was feeling, he was going to play this game. But yeah, over the course of a full season, and again, he's 35. What he's doing is absolutely insane. Like, it makes absolutely no sense. I don't know how many other examples of running backs at that age are still playing at this level there are out there. So I think the Bombers, although it's not showing up right now because it's not looking good, I think they did make the right move by moving on from Andrew Harris. But yeah, at this point, I know it's only 4 games, but I think it's more than justifiable to press the panic button because Brady is not getting it done, and Johnny isn't getting an opportunity for God knows why. Just give the guy a shot. Give him 10 carries a game. See what happens here. Look at his. Anytime he's ever been giving even a tiniest little chance, he's taken the ball and run with it, literally. And Greg McCrae, I think it's smart giving him some touches today, even though some of those swing passes were pretty ridiculous. But yeah, so it looks like they're trying to add a spark to that run game, and they better soon, or else they're gonna have a tough time, especially on Saturday.
Somebody in the live chat pointing out Johnny Augustine did have a catch for a first down. He did have a second down conversion. So thanks for that. I like this comment from Adam Draward, who's watching live on YouTube. Absolutely horrible. The Bombers will get killed if they play against BC on Saturday. Sorry, play like this against BC on Saturday. Mark my words. Yeah, I will mark your words, Adam. I think that is probably true. Mike O'Shea spoke after the game, and a lot of the questions about like what went wrong are so often met by him with, hey, you're asking me questions. I need to look at the film. I get that. But it's our first glance as members of the media. It's fans' first glance watching the games to kind of try to figure out what is going on. Does Winnipeg, are they? A sentiment many fans share, Taylor, is, are the Blue Bombers lacking a legitimate deep threat?
Absolutely. I mean, they lost Kenny Lawler in the offseason. I think people are also kind of glossed over that one as well, which kind of blew my mind. They lose Kenny, they lose Drew DeJarle, they lose Andrew Harris, Brandon Alexander's hurt. There's been so many. They had quite a few pretty big losses, and yet everyone was still like, oh, they're still the heavy favorites. They're going to cakewalk. It's a cakewalk to a 3rd straight Grey Cup. It's like, whoa, like those are some pretty Castillo as well at kicker. So yeah, they had some pretty big losses. So I was kind of going into this year thinking like, okay, let's pump the brakes here. Like, well, they have some stuff to figure out for sure. And yeah, it's obvious that Zach and Greg Ellingson have quite the connection. You'll see them before practice. They'll be warming up together and stuff, and they go way back, of course. But absolutely, like they are missing Kenny Lawler big time. And now with Dembski out, that adds to the problem even more. You would think Rashid Bailey would have got some more looks tonight. He was quiet, and while Tarsky made some nice catches and stuff as well. But I mean, this offense, Darren, just feels so flat. Like you just watch this team, and it's like who's scaring you on the Bombers' offense right now? Like Zach's playing fine, but he's not playing like an MOP right now. Which I mean, you don't have to do that every single year. But yeah, you just watch this offense and you're like, okay, like no one on this offense is really scaring me. Maybe you're seeing something different, Darren, but that's the way they kind of look right now to me.
No, flat is a good word for it. I, tweeted out vanilla, or I thought maybe uninspired. The play calling was maybe a better way to describe it. But a lot of people like this Toronto Argonauts team went to BC. I don't think they had a short week, if I'm not mistaken, but it was what, a week ago, 2 weeks ago? It was, yeah, a week ago on Saturday. They lost to the BC Lions 44-3. And what I saw in that game, I watched that game from start to finish, even though it was an absolute blowout, because I was kind of glued to Nathan Rourke and watching him in that game. And he stayed in, despite a pretty heavy lead. But that all said, the Toronto Argonauts offense could not protect. What did we see tonight, Taylor? We saw giveaway after giveaway from this Argonauts offense. And after throwing a pick six to Winston Rose and then an interception to Nick Taylor, he moves into a tie for the league lead with 3 interceptions on the season. Hadn't had a pick for a couple years. Now he's a league leader entering week 5, which I think is pretty great. Another turnover on downs that the Argos lost a challenge on that Andrew Harris kind of, third and short. And then what did we see? We didn't see McLeod Bethel Thompson wither. We saw him through the end of the second quarter and the beginning of the third quarter complete 10 consecutive passes. And then I think he hit Brandon Banks, who just stepped out of bounds. So he was on the money. Like McLeod Bethel Thompson overall, I think, had a pretty good game. He was 73%, 314 yards. Yes, he had those 2 interceptions early, but he came back and threw 2 touchdowns. Then, of course, Andrew Harris had 111 on the ground, averaged 5 yards per carry. And it was late in the game. I thought TSN did a phenomenal job when Toronto was pushing to the goal line and they had Andrew Harris run for 5 or 6 yards to get them to about the 6 or 7 yard line. They cut the camera to Mike O'Shea and you could see it on his face. The same look that was on the faces of opposing coaches when it was late in a game and the Bombers were on the doorstep feeding the ball to 33. I don't know if anybody can stop Andrew Harris from gaining at least 3 or 4 yards in those situations. He is that good. So it goes back to that question, you brought up, Taylor. Did the Blue Bombers make a mistake not signing a 35-year-old Andrew Harris? I do believe we need to see the entirety of the season. Will Harris stay healthy? Will he be good to go for this team if they're in the playoffs, that sort of thing? The reality is $180,000 for Andrew Harris or 90 for Brady and 90 for Johnny. And now you have a succession plan in place at Canadian tailback. You can't just go find a couple tailbacks or go scout the US. You have a Canadian running back, a Canadian position there, and that's how you work your ratio. You better make sure you have options there. The Blue Bombers have drafted. They, drafted Oliveira. They signed Augustine as a free agent. It's not an easy position to fill. So moving on from Andrew Harris was a strategic move by the Blue Bombers. Did it burn them? We're yet to see. It didn't exactly burn them tonight, but boy, it put a scare in them, don't you think?
Absolutely. And actually, before we kind of dive into that, I just wanted to point out one comment. Adam in the chat was saying how the Bombers offense looks like a Matt Nichols offense, which I thought was hilarious and also 100% accurate as well. But actually, you had a good tweet before the game. You could just about how Andrew Harris, just how serious and how motivated he looked. And yeah, it was obvious as well on the field. He was running angry. Every first down he got, he was jumping right up. He got popped really good by Malcolm Thompson once as well, and he jumped right up from that one as well. Yeah. So I know Bomber fans are happy they won, but in a way, I'm sure you have to feel kind of bad for Andrew Harris because his team did everything in their power to lose this game. And I know Mick BLT he turned it on the second half for sure, but you can't be throwing 2 interceptions like that early in the game against the team like the Bombers with that defense and whatnot. And Brandon Banks his shenanigans and Beatty's miss at the end, Andrew Harris, I don't know how he can even continue adding to his legacy, but somehow he did tonight with that performance, and he didn't really get the reward that he deserved. Sorry, but on that note, I wanted to ask you about they showed on TSN him receiving his Grey Cup ring in this little tote bag before the game, and he walked back to the locker room to take it in there, I'd assume, and whatever. So I'm not blaming the Bombers for this. I mean, the Argos aren't coming to town. I mean, he's not going to get that tribute video unless he plays another year or two and whatever. And
or if they're a crossover and meet Winnipeg in like a West semi.
True, which would also be kind of a weird timing to do that, though.
Super weird, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of like an awkward thing. It's like, okay, like this guy deserved that standing ovation. I'm sure there'd be the odd boo bird or two, which there shouldn't be, but I'm sure there would have been. Yeah, it was just kind of awkward seeing him receive his, here's a little treat bag with a Grey Cup ring, and thanks for these 5 years and, being a huge part in our 2 Grey Cups. But, here's a little bag with your Grey Cup. I don't know. Again, there's nothing else they really could have done because they're not coming to town. But
right.
For me, I just thought that was kind of like,
And you could see it kind of during the pregame show when the panel's talking on TSN, Andrew shaking hands and hugging, coaches and former teammates and close friends and all of that. Like Jamarcus Hardrick said it this week. He's like, it's my best friend. I miss him. Like his 3 or 4 kids call him Uncle Andrew. It was a game that, everybody had circled on their calendar, not because it was a grudge match. I've called it that. I think it's, just a fun thing to do, to describe it that way. But the reality is, it is a bit of a pseudo homecoming, albeit the game was in Toronto, but to see those guys again, to face those former teammates where they lifted 2 cups together, to meet Adam Bighill in the A gap, like you talked about. I think that's a cool thing. But yeah, Toronto not coming to town, I think is almost a little bit more of a heartbreaker than Ottawa not coming last year with Matt Nichols and Paul LaPolice. That's just me. I like how you called him McBLT. I haven't heard that one in a while for the law firm.
Well, I'm a diehard Minnesota Vikings fan, and the Vikings was one of the 47 different teams that Mick BLT has played for. So Vikings fans would always refer to him as Mick BLT because he has 47. A very long name. So yeah, is give or take a couple. Yeah, it's around there. Most of them were for about 2 weeks, but still, they count with the list. But yeah, so maybe I'm the only person who called him that. I think someone in the comments called him that as well. But yeah.
So a comment here, and thanks to everybody who's joining us on YouTube, on Facebook, or maybe you're watching on Twitter. If you're watching on Twitter and you want to join the chat, head over to youtube.com/Bonfire Sports or facebook.com/Bonfire Sports TV. You can find all of our links to our podcasts and everything, bonfiresports.ca. MRV, not McBLT, but MRV says, this team is dumb. Augustine needs to be the starter and used correctly. MRV, jump back into the chat. Let me know specifically what you mean by used correctly. What I saw from Johnny Augustine tonight is like, he is hard to tackle, but at the same time, he is a smaller guy and he got hit hard tonight. I just don't know if he is a true between the tackles runner. People criticizing Brady Oliveira for not being fast enough. But Brady can power through the hole, right? If Winnipeg wants to play that power run game, a la Andrew Harris, they want to play that smash you in the mouth, physical, dictating, the violence at the line of scrimmage. If you want to do that, you need a bruising back. You need a guy that can hit the hole hard. And
but can Brady really do that though? Like I think it was in the first quarter. It was either their first or second drive, I believe. Someone may correct me, but I think it was a 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4, and they handed the ball off to Brady, and he just got absolutely swallowed by the line. Yeah, and people keep referring to Brady as this big bruising back and stuff. I challenge you to look at those 2 guys standing beside each other. It's not like Brady's some monster compared to Johnny.
Brady's about 20, 30 pounds on him.
Yeah, for sure. But like, he's not like, there's not this huge, like, oh, okay, that guy's a huge bruiser and Johnny's just this little pipsqueak. Like, no, not at all. And again, it's sort of like every time Johnny Augustine has gone a chance, I'll beat this drum all night long if I have to. Every time he's gone a chance and the numbers back it up, he produces, but yet they'll give him 1 or 2 or 3 carries a game. Give the guy 10. Brady's not doing anything right now. This, like I said before, this offense feels so flat. A guy like Johnny, especially with Dembski out, who I think is their most electrifying player on offense.
Yeah,
give Johnny more of a shot here. You need someone just with some more burst and whatnot. And maybe Greg McCrae is that guy. They kind of put him in a couple of spots our positions to fail tonight just by giving them the ball and those swing passes and whatever. But you can kind of sense that what they see in him, and you look just kind of reading up on him as well. Like he has a pretty impressive resume. Like he averaged 6.5 yards per carry at Central Florida, which is the tops in school history. So that's a pretty impressive feat, obviously. But he's a pretty tiny guy as well. That's not a guy you're going to be handing the ball 220 times a game. So I mean, the Bombers have traditionally been a team that kind of just gives the ball to the one guy, and that's the way it works. But this might be a 3-man approach, and it might be kind of awkward at times, I guess. But I don't know. But again, for me, I think Johnny Augustine needs to be the 1A in that group for sure. I'm not saying Brady should be, put on the bench for the entire game, but yeah, I don't understand how he keeps getting more carries than Johnny Augustine.
Love MRV. Thanks, buddy. Jumping in and explaining, saying Johnny Augustine needs to get into space. You're right. He can't run up the middle. You have to get Johnny off tackle or sweeps. He's very good at catching the ball downfield. That's for sure. Saw him at Guelph for 4 years. He was very good at Guelph, went undrafted in the CFL draft, which is interesting. Winnipeg has been his third stop in the CFL, but definitely his longest home. Winnipeg likes Johnny Augustine. Are they using him enough? I think that's almost the forever conversation here in 2022, Taylor. That all said, I don't think putting Augustine in for, however many touches Oliveira had tonight would have solved the problems on offense. Like Oliveira had 7 carries. Like, did they even try to run the ball tonight? I don't know if they really did. It was a lot of the jet sweep and off tackle and everything to the outside. A couple of people in the chat mentioning maybe they weren't blocked too well. Toronto read it really well. I think that was maybe Toronto's best defensive game of the season. But I still think a lot of that has to do with Winnipeg just not finding an electricity, not finding a spark on offense. It just seems really kind of tepid right now, like lukewarm water.
Yeah, and you could probably count on, 2 to 3 fingers how many times they really threw the ball downfield. Like they seemed very, again, quoting Adam here, which you said earlier, like a Matt Nichols, check down offense. It was, they're just boring to watch, honestly, right now, and they just, again, they seem super flat. And a couple of people in the comments have been mentioning Brendan O'Leary-Orange. Was he even playing tonight? He was invisible, and you guys are right. I actually forgot he was even playing until you guys.
Well, I didn't see any. I didn't. Sorry to cut you off. I didn't see any throws to the wide side of the field. Like Wolotarski's normally there at the Z. That's the wide receiver, wide side wide receiver. He moved inside with Dembski gone, and they used Greg McCrae kind of similarly. But yeah, Brendan O'Leary-Orange was way to the outside and didn't really have much going there. Tyler Fabry had a comment earlier, and he just made it again. Tyler, I'm going to pull up your original. Zach Collaros asked about the swing passes, and he says they were called plays like checking out of a run play based on the defensive alignment. So a quarterback will check out of a play and into another play at the line of scrimmage. So they might call a run play in the huddle, and then they get to the line of scrimmage and they're like, okay, where we're running it, they're stacking their, dime backer, or they're stacking their weak side linebacker, or they've shifted their middle linebacker. Let's call out of this. So instead of doing a run play, we're going to, do a check out, quick little swing pass. So you don't have to change your formation too much. That's kind of the complicated way of breaking it all down. But that said, if Winnipeg's check play is getting beat every single time, don't you have something else you can put in there, like a hot route or, a quick slant? A hot route is like essentially throw at the receiver as soon as they're running off the line of scrimmage, right? Like you'll throw a hot route if the DB is 7 or 10 yards off of the line of scrimmage, and just hit your receiver real quick. Hopefully he can make the tackler miss, and then you can pick up some yardage that way. But whatever they were doing to check out of those run plays, if that actually is the case, as Collaros alleges, it wasn't working. They need to figure something out there. Toronto was all over it all night. People calling it, Taylor, people calling it, sleepy play calling or vanilla or flat, like we've used to describe it, uninspired. If it is a checkout play, they've got to fix that. It wasn't working tonight.
Yeah, but I guess one positive, if you want to pull one from the offense tonight, is Dalton Schoen. He looked pretty impressive, and again, this is
Yeah.
a rookie American receiver, and they lose Kenny and they lose Darvin Adams, who yes has probably lost a step or two, but Dalton's been reliable. Zach looks like he really trusts him and whatnot, but this we keep saying it, just how flat this offense looks. Some people were mentioning how Janarian Grant maybe deserves some more looks on offense. That might help. This wasn't Buck Pierce's best play calling performance by any means. There were several times where it was like, I don't understand what you guys are trying to do with this play here. But it's just so weird what's happened. This offense was just so scary last year. I believe they're the best in the league, and again, I know they lost some pretty important guys, but DB it does not look good. But I guess fortunately for them is they have still this historic defense who keeps bailing them out. There was a comment quite a bit earlier saying the defense was the offense tonight, and it definitely was. I mean, that Winston Rose pick six, bought the Bombers some time to figure things out. And again, it just seems like every time that they need a big play on defense, they deliver. Winston Rose made arguably an even better play, I believe, in the third quarter when Banks had that catch just on the goal line and he kind of punches it out and gets passed around quite a bit there.
Great play.
Yeah, Winston Rose, he took a lot of negative things were said about Winston Rose in the first two games of the season. He did not look like an all-star corner that he has been. It did not look like a guy that, got a shot from the NFL pretty recently. But tonight he was phenomenal. I think if they're giving out a game ball, it'd probably go to him because, those are two massive plays, and the Bombers don't win this game without those.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself, Taylor. That's really a redemption game for Winston Rose after that rough start, as you mentioned. Paul Audette, who's watching live on YouTube, asks, why does Winston Rose play so far off receivers? Zone defense is really the norm in professional football now. You don't see man-to-man too often. So Winston being a corner, and now he is on the wide side of the field with Demario Houston taking Rose's spot at the boundary corner, the hot corner, I call it. He's got a lot of field to work with, and he's probably playing outside shade. So like Winston Rose is playing with his back to the sideline and watching what the receiver does, not letting him get between him and the sideline. So Rose playing off the ball. And what do we see Winston Rose so often do? Jump the route, right? He likes watching everything's happening. Maybe they've told him, be a little bit more conservative, stay back, and then make, attack and make the play when the ball is thrown. That's much easier to do on the wide side of the field than it is where Rose played at the beginning of the season with the shorter field, right? So give him lots of space to play off the ball. It's all part of zone, deep quarter, all this mumbo jumbo lingo or whatever. But he's got his little region of the field that he's responsible for, and watching that receiver to see if he can jump on a pass. We saw it tonight, as you mentioned, Taylor, pick six early in this game that really had the momentum going the Blue Bombers' way. Toronto rather just did enough to get the momentum back in their favor, especially late in the second quarter, like going into half.
Well, Darren, I was going to say, let's not forget.
It was in Toronto's favor. Okay?
No, absolutely. Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to say, let's not forget in week one when Winston Rose got absolutely torched. Credit to him. He faced the music after the game. He spoke to the media and he said, "You know what? I was just being too aggressive. I was trying too hard to make an interception happen and stuff." So I'd assume his mindset has changed since then because that didn't go so well, and that's maybe why he's playing a bit more conservative, I guess, tonight. And hey, it worked out. But Darren, I know he just pulled up the Walby Warrior is Hardrick tonight message, but maybe we should talk some Mark Leggio. I've heard his name quite often in the chat, and some people are saying they're now believers in Leggio.
It's amazing,
on paper, he's 100% from on field goals for the year, but he was 3 for 3 tonight, but his longest was from 32 yards.
Yeah,
one of them was a 15-yarder.
That's a convert.
I can hit that. I would hope.
Can you?
I would think. I think so. Yeah.
Can you kick? Can you kick a 30-yard field goal? It's harder than it looks.
I think my range is 25 and under. If we're 25 yards and under, I'm pretty confident.
Now we're
but
talking.
once we're at 30, we might be
30 is a good 30 is a good distance. I've gone out to the local fields and booted some footballs with my boys back in the day, and it is not easy to kick a 30-yard field goal. That is a shot. But Leggio got the job done. He didn't miss any converts. He didn't miss any field goals. And maybe not as effective punting today as he was last week against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, where he was awesome, but did his job. If we're not talking about Mark Leggio, and I'm glad you brought him up, but normally you wouldn't talk about the kicker in a game like this. That's a good thing, because he just went out there, he did his job. Too often, Mark Leggio or Ali Mortada or whomever the Blue Bombers kicker is, not named Sergio Castillo. Too often their names are, part of the conversation in the post game.
Well, let me ask you this, and the viewers as well. When it's October or even November, if the game's on the line, let's say from 40 plus yards, and it's up to Leggio to seal the deal, are you feeling confident in him? I mean, Sergio Castillo, what he did in last year's Grey Cup was phenomenal, like absolutely insane.
In the wind, people don't talk about that enough. Like the way he kicked in the wind was awesome. Like, what was it? The left to right, going left to right on the broadcast and from our vantage point in the press box, Taylor, like that one kick he made, I think it was in the third quarter. Maybe it was in the fourth quarter. Into the wind, and it was like hooking, but he kicked it perfectly. And I understand, most outstanding player, most outstanding Canadian, the rest, but man, he should have got maybe some recognition for a game that nobody really popped off the page outside of obviously some really, really big impact plays.
Yeah, I wrote the 5 takeaways from the Grey Cup, and one of them for me was, I think Castillo should have been the most outstanding player in that game, because they don't win it without him. And Zach, it wasn't at his best. But I guess talking more recently, Leggio, it's been encouraging. The game against Hamilton, he was lights out. But for me, what's stuck in my head, Darren, is last year there's a game at home against Calgary where he hit the game winner, and I think he hit 3 or 4 field goals in the game. He looked really good, and it looked like, okay, well, maybe we don't need to call Justin Medlock every 10 seconds trying to convince them to come back. But what happened after that Calgary game? The wheels completely fell off Leggio. He had 2 bad games after that, and before you know it, they're making a trade for Sergio Castillo. So tonight was his first game after that really good game this year. So I was curious to see how he would respond, if it was going to be similar to last year. But honestly, like when you're kicking 3 kicks from 32 yards and under, he has to be making that. I don't think there's anything can be taken away from his performance tonight. I don't think we can say, oh yeah, way more confident Leggio, because he drilled that 15-yarder right down the pipe. Like, whatever. Like, I think there was absolutely nothing to learn from Leggio tonight. I mean, it's better than him missing those kicks, obviously. Yep. But if this team isn't deep in the playoffs and they need him to make a big kick, like I'm a reporter. I don't care who wins or loses, but if I was a Bomber fan, I would be sitting there going, I'm not feeling that great. But we'll see. It's still early in the year, and he's still a young guy. But so far he's made all his field goals. You can't really dump on the guy. So
well, and to your point that you wrote about out of the Grey Cup, that Castillo should have been MOP. Like I printed that article off, and it's hanging in my bedroom, Taylor.
Oh wow. Well,
I'm joking. I'm poking fun of you, because you and I were talking about that going into the Grey Cup. Like, oh man, people are going to be reading this, for years. It's the championship and then the 5 takeaways. No doubt people were. Taylor, you did a really good job on that. I was just trying to skewer you a little bit to have a little fun here on.
I figured you're being sarcastic, but I just wanted to believe for a second. I just wanted to believe.
Yeah, no, I don't know how many articles I've actually printed off in the last 10 years, but I don't know. How many hard copies did you take of that paper?
I think
Got a couple for mom and dad and grandma.
Well, the thing is, when I first started writing for the Free Press, they all kept all the articles and stuff,
Sure.
and
And then it's like enough already.
then it's like, okay, yeah, the whole storage room is going to be filled up with them pretty soon, when you're writing every day and whatnot. So now it's at the point where I'll keep the odd one or two when there's something really cool that I write, or I should say I write something really cool every day. But when there's something I'm very extra proud of, I'll keep that one for sure. But yeah, not too many these days that I'm keeping around. But yeah, that was one for sure I had to keep. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Championships don't come along too often, despite what people here in Winnipeg seem to think with the back-to-back champs over 3 years here in Winnipeg. Some people in the live chat asking about the Brandon Banks touchdown, the Demario Houston near interception that was not overturned by video review. You can go back in the YouTube video. We talked about it pretty much right off the top of the show. Everything available on podcast. Go to your favorite podcast app, whatever it is, search Bonfire Sports. You will find it there. Links to all of those popular podcast apps on bonfiresports.ca. Do want to do a quick programming note. We're going to take a bye this week on Bonfire Midweek. Zach is good and will be back very, very soon. Wanted me to share that with everybody out there. If you follow him on Twitter, at Zach Schnitzer 48, he was active tonight. So he's champing at the bit to get back into things and join us here on Bonfire Sports. But oh my goodness, I have a puppy dog running in here. Let's see. Hang on. Come here. Oh, you're excited.
Oh, here's my replacement, new co-host.
This is Myra. We're dog sitting. Say hi, Myra. Hi. Okay, that's enough of that. So enjoying. That dog just like ran in here and scared the crap out of me. Scared me brushing my teeth this morning too. I need the vanity. I need the the cupboard under my bathroom sink because the dog just came. I'm not used to having a dog in the house, and anyway. Hope everybody enjoyed a quick look at a Shih Tzu.
There you go. Well, on that note, very very quickly, we'll get back to football. More importantly, but
yes, let's do that.
my friend was telling me on the weekend that there's this app called a Rover where you can dog sit for people and get paid, and you set your rate and whatever. So my good friend, she had 2 dogs. She sat this weekend. She made $200. So for me,
good for her.
I might become a part-time dog sitter moving forward. So.
Yeah.
So anyone in the chat, if they need a dog to get looked after, let me know. We'll talk. But sorry. Back to football.
This is your opportunity to plug your Twitter, Taylor.
Oh, there you go.
What is your handle?
Taylor Allen 31. At Taylor Allen 31. When you have a super common name, you have to
throw some numbers on there.
End. But when you have 2 first names like me, people always tell me
that. So Taylor, when it comes to the Blue Bombers, where do you gauge the concern on offense? I don't think the defense has anything to be concerned about. They continue to play lockdown defense. Yes, the Argos got into the end zone tonight, and it was the first touchdown the Blue Bombers have allowed since the second opponent possession of the first quarter of the first game this year. But overall, I think Winnipeg did a pretty good job against Andrew Harris. Yeah, he averaged 5 yards per carry and 111 yards. McLeod Bethel-Thompson threw for 2 touchdowns and 314, but those 2 interceptions early definitely helped Winnipeg stay in the football game. Zach Collaros mentioned after the game that they need to do a better job scoring touchdowns and not relying on Mark Leggio, not relying on field goals. They didn't have that killer instinct tonight. There was something missing, a spark, whatever it may be. And it's a short week now. Not a lot of time to get on the field and try some new things. Saturday should be telling in Vancouver.
Yeah, you asked me what my concern level is about the offense, so I'll ask you a question back. What week is it right now in the CFL?
It's a Monday and it's week 4. Is it Tuesday yet? No, it's Monday.
So there you go. It's week 4, heading into week 5. We are still so early in the season. I know everyone wants to see the Bombers or whatever the team is, come out the gates firing, guns blazing and stuff. And last year, the Bombers were a good team from the beginning of the year. But if you remember, as the season progressed, they just kept getting better and better and better and better. So again, I mentioned this before, when you start the year 4-0, that also kind of buys you some time to figure things out. I know the West Division, everyone has really good records right now, except for Edmonton. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. But yeah, I mean, it's only week 4. But with that said, though, with Dembski being out, if he's out for a while, that definitely kind of raises the concern there.
Yeah.
If they don't try anything new here with the run game, that raises some concerns because what they're doing right now obviously isn't working. If another injury happens on that O line, like they can take another injury right now. Like that would just be the worst thing that could happen to them.
Yeah, especially on offense. Yeah, no question.
So yeah, it's still early in the year. I don't think people should be pressing the panic button on offense yet, but I think it's definitely something worth talking about. But with that said, though, when you have a defense that is this good, you don't have to be the best offense in the league. You really don't. Like all 4 of these games, actually last week against Hamilton, the offense, they made some good plays. They were pretty solid.
Yep.
But this defense has totally bailed this team out all season long, and even when they lose a guy or two here and there, they plug in whoever, and it's like they don't miss a beat. It's insane. So when you got a defense like that, you don't need to be scoring 50-something points a game. But honestly, though, I think this week going up against Nathan Rourke and BC is going to be very telling, because if this game's going into the 40s, I don't see the Bombers hanging around with BC to do that. But if the Bombers defense keeps playing like they are, and they're able to stifle the lines, and they could keep this in the 20s and stuff, like the Bombers can get you enough points to get the win. But yeah, like we mentioned earlier, like no one on this offense is scaring anyone right now. And again, with that good of a defense, you might be able to get away with it, at least right now. But yeah, it's
right. I'm with Phyllis, who's watching live on YouTube. Thanks for joining us again, Phyllis. Our defense is the difference every game, Phyllis says. Love watching those boys do their stuff. So do I. Like, this defense is tons of fun to watch. The way Adam Bighill played tonight, like we touched on it earlier, Taylor, but like the way he leapt over the line of scrimmage and like lays hits on the quarterback, running the wedge package or the short yardage, the way he flies sideline to sideline, the way he drops back. Obviously that hit on Dunbar Jr. is still echoing through the seats at IG Field. But the backfield, like Dietrich Nichols, Nick Taylor, Winston Rose, now Demario Houston. Those guys are a lot of fun to watch. Malcolm Thompson bringing the smack, just like Brandon Alexander has always. I don't think Brandon Alexander is too close to a return. Taylor, you and I see him at practice, like running, but have you seen him change direction while running at all? I haven't.
No, yeah. Someone asked me on Twitter pretty recently if BA will likely be back anytime soon, and I don't think he will. But I mean, the way they're playing right now, they can hang on without him. If they could just get him back for the home stretch, adding a piece like him, oh my goodness. I mean, you think of this defense last year. Adam Bighill was who they ended up naming the most outstanding defensive player, who ended up winning the league's most outstanding defensive player. But really, you could have chose Willie, you could have chose Jackson, and honestly, you could have chose BA as well. He had a phenomenal year last year as well, and sometimes he doesn't get enough credit as well, just because there's so many stars on this defense. So
yeah,
Malcolm Thompson, like he's filled in like quite well. I thought he had a good game today with that big hit on Harris and a couple other nice plays. But BA is a difference maker. So the fact that this defense looks this good without, we'll say one of their top 5 players on defense, is pretty impressive. So if they could get BA back for the home stretch, and he's even close to what he usually is, this defense is going to be even scarier. So
yeah, no, I can't imagine it being scarier, but it probably will be with BA back. Paul Adet asking when Michael Couture, the Blue Bombers starting center, will be back. He was placed on the 6-game injured list. We do know he has a broken arm, so I don't see him coming off early. Is it 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks? It can vary greatly. Orthopedics that I've spoken with, Taylor, they talk about like where breaks happen, and it amazes me how they can like predict how long it takes a bone to heal just based on like where it is on your leg or on your arm. I remember Ian Wild, the Blue Bombers' longtime linebacker several years ago, breaking his wrist, like just above his wrist. He broke his arm. And it happened on like a special teams play. I think somebody like stepped on his arm right on the sideline, something to that effect. He was out like 3 months. And I'm asking these orthopedic surgeons, I'm like, why is a broken bone taking that long? Like, is it something else? They go, no, if you break something like close to the wrist, it's a non-vascular area. And I'm like, I'm no doctor. I'm just telling you what I've been told by the experts, that these areas that don't have a lot of blood vessels in them, it takes the bone that much longer to heal. So I don't know how long Michael Couture will be out, but I can't imagine him coming off the 6-game early. That said, I think you'd agree with me, Taylor. Chris Kolinkowski's looked pretty good at center.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned his name. I was going to jump in there and, give him some praise because he definitely deserves it. And I think, honestly, he has kind of one of the most underrated stories on this team. For people that don't know, he was with the Argos for a couple of years, won a Grey Cup, but didn't get to start any games. And then they let him go, I believe, before the 2019 season. Didn't latch on with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of looked like his career was kind of over. So his agent, said there wasn't really any opportunities coming up. The best that they could find for him was a Blue Bombers free agent camp in Cincinnati. So here's this Canadian guy from Ontario driving to Cincinnati, which doesn't happen too often. That's usually for these American guys and whatever. But this guy wanted to play that bad. Drives down to Cincinnati for this free agent camp, impresses, gets a contract for the year that didn't happen, 2020. And then they bring him back last year, and he's on the PR for most of the year, doesn't get to play at all. And this year, finally getting a chance to play. I think he's 30 or 31, and his first career start was this season, despite being in the league for 4 or 5 years, which is pretty crazy. But he's been really solid. I've been really impressed with him. He hasn't been getting pushed around. He's pretty nasty on that line too. And him and Zach have a good relationship. It seems like they've actually trained together. Zach has told us a couple times they've actually trained together a couple times back in Toronto in the off season and stuff. So they're familiar with one another. So yeah, Michael Couture is a big loss for sure, but the Bombers can at least be pretty happy that Kolinkowski is playing quite well.
Yeah, well said, and very cool story. When a guy wants to play football like that and just sticks with it and does whatever he can to keep playing, good on him, and awesome that he's getting an opportunity now, showing that he can hang with the boys, like and start and play on one of the best offensive lines in the CFL. I would probably say, I know fans won't want to hear this, okay, but Calgary's offensive line might be better than Winnipeg's this year. Just saying, might be. I don't know. Don't get me too hard. Hit the hotline.
So far they have been.
So far they have been. Like Kadeem Carey, man. Oh, he is a good football player. Like, and the way he's running on that Calgary offense, like the team won't, but I can look past Vancouver. I can look past the BC Lions to Friday, July 15th at IG Field, Taylor. We will be there, you and I, amongst many other members of the media. I'm looking forward to that game. That could be a battle of the unbeatens once again if Winnipeg is able to survive the short week and go into Vancouver with enough health and juice to get the job done on a short week against a very good team. I do need to mention our good friends at Scotswood Links, and thanks to them for supporting Bonfire Sports. There's their beautiful new clubhouse. They're just a quick drive down Highway 3. That is west of Winnipeg, Elm Creek, Manitoba. It's beautiful out there. The course is in awesome shape. They didn't get very much rain out there at all. The greens are beautiful and nice. There is their wedding setup there. I've been to a couple parties there in my day, Taylor, but great food, great people, cold drinks, awesome staff. Like, go check them out. We actually have some passes to give away for Scotswood Links. Scotswoodlinks.com is their website. Taylor, we need a code word for people to call the hotline or text the hotline, say or text the code word, and then you'll be entered for a foursome pass. You can go twice, or you can go foursome at once, green fees and carts included.
Ooh, code word.
Well, how about like the unheralded hero of the game tonight. Like, we'll use their last name. How about that?
Well, I was gonna say Johnny for Johnny Augustine, since I've been, pounding the
Johnny a little
table
bit. Okay.
for him. But you know what? I think in honor of Andrew Harris's game against the Bombers and whatever, he's been the talk of the week and the game and whatever. Maybe just Harris for Andrew Harris. How about that?
Okay, I like that. Andrew Harris, he got his Grey Cup ring tonight, so he is the code word. Text Harris to 816-TIPS, 816-8477. It's that familiar Manitoba 204 area code. Standard message rates apply. As always, I always like to say, Taylor, if you want to text the hotline, it's just like texting your mama. So if you got a regular texting plan, you're good to go. But need to say that, of course. The live chat is lit up like awesome right now. We got well over 100 people watching live following the Blue Bombers 23-22 win on a missed field goal or missed convert late in the game. We could have seen overtime tonight, Taylor. We might have just been starting the pregame or the postgame show right now, you and I.
No, absolutely. And speaking of the chat and how it's popping off, a couple people have mentioned John Trail Rockamore, who was playing linebacker for the Bombers last year. He actually started week 1 last year.
I think he got an interception week 1, didn't he?
Yes, yeah, he played quite well. He's a pretty cool guy as well. I remember we spoke to him in training camp. He had a pretty cool story and whatnot. He's into lots of different things out of football. But just on that note, though, people are asking what he's doing and whatnot. I don't think he's playing football anywhere. Actually, just saw him on LinkedIn. He's working as like a business development manager or something like that. So I don't think he'll be. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. So it could be. So we'll have to keep an eye on what happens with Kyrie Wilson. But yeah, that's a big question mark there for sure.
Adam with another good comment watching live on YouTube. You know who'd be sick? Mercy Maston. Frowny face emoji, poor guy. For those listening on the podcast, like heartbreaking. Mercy Maston. I was told by a CFL GM. I've said this many times. A CFL GM told me after the 2019 Grey Cup, it was months after the 2019 Grey Cup Blue Bombers win, that Mercy Maston was maybe the reason why Winnipeg's defense played as well as they did through the playoffs and through to that Grey Cup. They did a great job stuffing the run, and then they couldn't do that check down game too much because Mercy Maston was flying all over the field. Tears his Achilles last year in training camp, right, Taylor? And then Achilles again this year, surgery, and his season is very, very likely over. Man, like excellent player. I sure hope he's not done with football. I don't think football should be done with him. He's just an awesome football player.
Yeah. Cam Akers, the running back for the Rams, he tore his Achilles, and he actually came back for the Rams at the very end of the season. And
wow,
honestly, he didn't look very good, if we're being honest. I think he had one pretty good game, and then he kind of looked like a shell of himself, to be honest. So
didn't Teemu Selanne like rip his Achilles up or something when he was with the Jets? I'm pretty sure he did.
I don't
know.
If
you were born in 92, I don't know if you'd remember.
Yeah, a little before my time, Darren.
Yeah, but obviously he still had lots of juice left, and that injury didn't hamper him on his way to a Hall of Fame career. So hoping the best for Mercy Maston. I think Winnipeg will be okay. They've got good depth. The defense is not the problem. It is the offense. But Taylor, as we wrap up the show, because people got to work tomorrow. Now, we need to do our usual Walby's Warrior Happy Honker Award. And then what's our other one? Help me out in the chat. I can't remember our usually I lean on Zach for these things. But do you have a Walby's Warrior, like the guy that just went out there and battled his way tonight?
Well, honestly, it deserves to go to a guy in double blue, Andrew Harris. I know we talked about a bunch this game, but was there anyone on offense on either side that was more impressive than Andrew Harris tonight? I personally don't think so. He was running angry. Like, he was fighting for first downs. He was bowling guys over. Like, he was busting his ass trying to win that game. Whether Toronto wanted to win it or not, he was doing everything he could to try to make them win it, even though they were making all these mistakes and shooting themselves in the foot and whatnot. So So yeah, for me, I'd have to go to Andrew Harris. But if we have to give one to someone in blue and gold, um, the fact that I'm struggling to think of one,
Well,
that's
you know what?
probably not good.
I'll pick one. I'll pick one from the Blue Bombers. I like the Andrew
There you
Harris pick. He was a warrior tonight. I'm going to pick a guy on offense for the Bombers. Oh, Jamarcus Hardrick went down in this game twice, stayed
go. Good
in
call.
it, stayed in the fight. He was a warrior tonight. I know Chris Walby will be happy. I picked the Blue Bombers starting right tackle for Walby's warrior. Westwood's wide to the right is the one I forgot. So like the moment in the game or the moment this week in the CFL that just pissed you off, that just doesn't make sense, that just bothers you. You got one?
I do, and the thing that pisses me off and bothers me is the fact that this game was in Toronto. And the fact, or at least that Toronto's not coming to Winnipeg at all this year. I think that is
Right.
such a missed opportunity. IG Field would be rocking for that one. And I kind of touched on it earlier. I think most people, I'd say 85% of people, maybe even 90, would be cheering for Andrew and giving him a standing ovation and whatever. There'd be the odd boo bird or two. But
Yep.
it kind of sucks that we're getting robbed of that opportunity. That would be a really memorable night, not only for him, but just for the Bombers and everyone. So yeah, that's what kind of pissed me off watching this game from my living room. Like, no, this should have been happening at IG Field, or this should be happening in IG Field in a couple weeks. So,
Yep.
so yeah,
Agreed.
that was a big time bummer. So hopefully Andrew plays another year, so that moment can't happen, or maybe they meet in the playoffs or the crossover or whatever. But yeah, that pissed me off. That was kind of lingering in my head all week. I was like, man, this would be way better if this was happening here. So
Taylor
that pissed me
Allen,
off.
that was an awesome wide to the right. I love that. Great call. I'm going to, despite what I said earlier about it, I'm going to echo the voice of the people. And my Westwood wide to the right tonight is the non-call overturn on the Demario Houston interception, Brandon Banks touchdown play. People didn't like it. People felt Houston had the interception. They felt he was down by contact, that it should have been an INT. Play ended there, not allowing Banks to take the ball away. If that play went the Blue Bombers' way, the Blue Bombers, we wouldn't be talking about, like a missed convert not sending this game to overtime. We'd be talking about a pretty healthy Blue Bombers win. It could probably be your Bonfire Sports turning point tonight as well. But I'll put that as my Westwood wide to the right. You got a Happy Honker Award. Are you familiar with that? You heard that before?
I was just gonna say, what on earth is a happy honker word? Is that something you want to win, or is that?
So yeah, so the old Happy Honker Award is like on CGOB, like way back, like way back to Cactus Jack Wells. He would like people driving home from the game in the post-game show, and they would like honk their horn. CGOB's studios used to be like right by there, so you could hear the honking of the horns, that sort of thing. So we did a Happy Honker Award. We just give it to a moment of levity, or a moment we liked in the game or in the CFL this week. I'm trying to think of something that I liked in this game. Oh, you know what? I got a Happy Honker Award. Something jumping out to you?
Well, you go first.
Okay.
I'm still wrapping my head around what the heck a Happy Honker is, but yeah,
So
you go.
So my Happy Honker will go to Nick Taylor, a player who the Blue Bombers social media team highlighted dancing during warmups. He is, the way the Blue Bombers put it, is that he is a vibe. If you don't know what that is, look it up on whatever encyclopedia you want to use. But he is a underappreciated, under promoted personality on this Blue Bombers team. And to see him go 2 seasons without an interception and now have 3 on the year to lead the CFL, be tied with a couple other guys, is just awesome. I'm happy honking for Nick Taylor. Good on you, buddy. Well done.
Yeah, no, that's a good pick for sure. I think for me, my happy honker would have to be Drew Wolotarski. That was a pretty sweet touchdown snag he had in the first half there. And, we were kind of talking beforehand how with Dembski out, Drew Wolotarski probably wasn't the first guy you'd think of that would maybe get some more action. You kind of think it'd be Rashid Bailey or someone else, but yeah, Drew. I mean, he's kind of funny. He'll be quiet for like 3 or 4 weeks, and you kind of forget about him, and then he'll just make some insane catch, and you're like, oh yeah, that Drew's pretty good at football too, isn't he? I know he didn't light up the gameplay or whatever, but that was a nice, catch in traffic he made, and he found his way in the end zone. And all of us media folk always get a kick out of speaking with Drew, and just this is kind of cool California guy vibe he has, calling us a dude and bro and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of funny. And
yeah, like Ty's mentioning in the live chat, the rock star. He does that guitar celebration in the end zone, right?
Absolutely,
that's a good happy honker. I like that. Who was it here? It was AJ, who's watching live on YouTube. The happy honker goes to Willie Jefferson for belting out the Star Spangled Banner. I think that was a cool thing they did at BMO tonight.
Absolutely.
4th of July, tons of Americans on the field and probably in the stands too, I would imagine, including Brendan O'Leary Orange's family, which has a lot of American ties. Doyle Orange, an American of native descent, but was a phenomenal running back for the Toronto Argonauts back in the day. His family was all there for Brendan O'Leary Orange's first career CFL start. So in the stands, on the field, I think it's a great thing to pay homage on the 4th of July to those Americans that were in attendance.
Yeah, and props to Mike O'Shea. He was singing the Canadian anthem as well. They had a nice little close-up shot of him. You could hear him, or not hear him, but you could see him singing the anthem, which is kind of funny. But actually, now that I think of it, did you hear, and did anyone else hear when Winston Rose had that pick six? He was carrying the ball with one hand, which old school football guys absolutely freaking hate.
Loaf of bread.
I mean, yeah, exactly. So Brandon Banks was behind him, and he tried tackling him, and he fell and didn't get him. But I'm pretty sure you could hear on the broadcast. You couldn't see Mike saying this, but you could hear the audio of him, using an expletive word or two, saying how don't you dare hold the ball like that, especially when you have a fast guy behind you like that. Which I got a kick out of. I took note of that, but didn't forgot to mention that until now. So yeah, that was kind of a funny moment from the game.
Yeah, that is a good moment too. So like maybe an honorable mention for our Happy Honker award tonight. Well, Taylor, this was fun, man. You got any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Final thoughts. Honestly, I'm just super excited for Saturday. Honestly, lucky enough I'll be headed to Vancouver to cover the game for the Free Press. So
nice.
So stay tuned to that. But yeah, Saturday night in Vancouver, 2 undefeated teams, BC with this Canadian kid at quarterback. Just how freaking cool is that? I don't care who you cheer for. That's just so good for the league, and
it's good for football in Canada, right?
Absolutely, and who knows? Maybe the wheels will fall off with this guy, or maybe not. There's also talk that he might get some NFL looks as well. So again, I don't think it matters who you cheer for. That's a super fun storyline. Trey Ford over in Edmonton as well, getting some opportunities now too. So yeah, this is a fun time to be following this league, covering this league, and like I said, I'm super stoked to be going to Vancouver for Saturday, and yeah, hopefully my flight doesn't get delayed a bunch, which seems to be happening to everyone right now. But either way, yeah, this weekend should be a blast. How about you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. It's only a 3-game slate in CFL Week 5, so 3 teams on the bye. Another Battle of Alberta, Calgary in Edmonton on Thursday, Ottawa in Regina on Friday night, and then Bombers Lions Saturday. Chris Walby and I will have GameDay Winnipeg and your pregame show as always the day before the game. The day before the game, right around 3:00, Chris Walby and I go live. But of course, the video is available. The podcast is available all the way up. Well, even right now, if you want to watch it or listen to it. And then we will have post-game coverage as always here on Bonfire Sports. But man, the live chat was lit up tonight. Everybody, thanks so much for joining us live. Taylor, thanks to you, man. Give Taylor Allen a follow on Twitter at Taylor Allen 31. I'm going to ask you off air, Taylor, what the 31 is for. We'll keep it a secret from the
No,
huddled masses right now.
I'll tell everyone.
Oh, you want to tell everyone? Okay, what is it?
Absolutely. My favorite.
I have no idea. I have no idea, by the way. None.
I don't think many people know. So my favorite athlete of all time, any sport, is Reggie Miller. Shooting guard, Indiana Pacers, plays entire career for the Pacers. I saw a documentary on it. Wasn't the 30 for 30 that ESPN did a couple years ago. It was this Fox Sports documentary they did on him. I was a little kid watching this, and the Raptors were, you know what, at the time and stuff. So it was a frustrated time as a basketball fan. They saw this documentary on Reggie, and they're, it was just talking all about his rivalry with the Knicks in the 90s and Spike Lee and all his game-winning, clutch three-pointers and his rivalry with Michael Jordan and stuff. And I always liked the underdogs, the small market teams,
nice,
players like that and stuff. And I was like, this is my guy. So I'm currently sitting in my dining room area right now. Actually, my office. I have his jersey on the wall and a framed poster from his retirement game. And
Reggie Miller.
So yeah, pretty random. I don't think there's probably any or too many Indiana Pacers fans in Canada or Winnipeg for that matter, or Reggie Miller fans. But that's my guy. So I've been rocking 31 ever since then. So I didn't think I'd get to squeeze in a Reggie Miller reference tonight, but I'm glad I did. Thanks for the opportunity. But more importantly, this has been so much fun. The chat's been awesome. You guys, so many great comments and stuff. So many things that were kind of making me laugh and stuff as well. Some great insights. So Darren, this has been awesome. You're doing a great job this year, like I said, and I'd love to come back if you ever need me. So yeah, thanks again.
Absolutely, man. Well, yeah, I hope you travel safe to Vancouver. The Bombers aren't even really well, they're going to have one practice this week. It is closed. So, Taylor, you'll have pieces in the Winnipeg Free Press this week, and you can follow him on Twitter. As I mentioned, I put it in the live chat at Taylor Allen 31. I love, waiters, you've been ripping it up in the live chat tonight, dropping hilarious comments all the time. Reggie Miller mocking Spike with the choke. One of my favorite moments in sports, period. I loved watching, just a quick thought on Reggie Miller. I loved watching him because not only was he clutch, but he was just such a competitor, such a gamer. And the fact that he was never able to get to the promised land, it's kind of like, Howard Chuck and the Jets in a Wayne Gretzky dominated National Hockey League. Well, that's what was Michael Jordan and the Bulls, right? They were just never able to get out of the conference with the Bulls there. But what a competitor, what a gamer. I think that's pretty cool that you got a Reggie Miller comment in here tonight. But yeah, this was awesome. Taylor, I'm looking forward to reading your work, and thanks again for doing this. Thanks to everybody out there in the live chat. bonfiresports.ca. You can find everything you need there, podcasts, links, and more. Thanks, Taylor. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, no worries. Anytime. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, I am going to push some buttons here so then I can actually end the show. But thanks again. Appreciate you all, and hope you have a good night. Bombers win by 1, move to 4-0. We'll see you Friday for the pregame here on Bonfire Sports.